Testing, 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 testing. I need to make sure my mic if my audio is good. So if you're present and you see me and you hear me, if you could please put a message in the chat and let me know that the audio is okay. I'm just gonna wait a few minutes for the algorithm to catch up notifying people that I'm going live. Yeah, and just wait a few minutes while I'm doing that. Before I jump right into the information I want to talk about tonight, I want to acknowledge that I have gotten a few hundred of subscribers lately. And so I just want to say welcome, 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 welcome. Much gratitude to those who have recently subscribed to the channel. With having so many new viewers, I probably need to go over what this channel is about because I've had quite a few changes and updates and everything recently. So from this channel, this is an African-centered travel vlog created by me, Akila, and I talk about the legal logistics of expatriation from America to an African country and what that experience is like. I also take you guys along my personal journey, which involves my different trips to different African countries and the process that I'm taking myself to expatriate. So I take you guys along that journey with me. So I guess if I had to advise anybody else that's kind of thinking about taking this journey too, it would be to not to romanticize the idea of moving out of the country out of the US to an African country, because it's a serious, serious, serious decision, very serious decision. And so it should be approached as such. Expatriation is more than just getting on a plane and waving bye to America. Like, it's a whole legal process. Because of our citizens-based taxation as Americans, we literally are taxed. No matter where we live in the world, we still have to file an annual tax return and pay taxes to the US government, no matter where we live in the world. So it's a whole legal process, from the passports to the visa that your country you're going to if you stay an entire tax year out of the country, filing taxes. Like, it's a whole legal process, right? And a lot of people, I won't say a lot of people, but a lot of Africans that are born in America that have never left the country don't know that. Like, now on YouTube, you find a lot of information, a lot of people vlogging about their experience. They've moved out of the US or maybe moved out of Europe, and you see a lot of vloggers on YouTube vlogging their experience living in an African country. And so now there's a lot of information on YouTube about that kind of thing. But when I first started my journey in 2015, there was not a lot of information on the internet about Black people in America moving to Africa. In fact, during that time when I first started my journey, I really remember just feeling ostracized for even wanting to even have an idea about visiting Africa. So yeah, gratefully now there's a lot of information, a lot of people that you can look to for influence If that type of thing is on your mind or um, in your path, to journey outside of America and live somewhere else. There's a lot of information on the internet about that now, where, like I said, a few years ago, it just wasn't. And so, yeah, if you're new to this channel, that's pretty much what I talk about from here. All things about traveling to Africa. So I'm about 6 minutes in now, so I'll go ahead and get into the material. I've had some recent changes to the channel here recently, and for a number of reasons. I first started this channel in 2015 during my first trip to Africa. I think if you look back in my videos, my earliest video had to do with some fundraising that I was doing for the Timalechi Nursery School in Mbongweni, Malawi. Mbongweni is the town and Malawi is the country within the continent of Africa. It's like Southeast Africa. And so that was the first video that I put up in regards to fundraising for that particular school that I was doing humanitarian work with. And so after that, I'm just kind of giving you guys a backstory, those who are, like I said, new to this channel and kind of unfamiliar with who I am and my story. So yeah, so I started this channel in 2015, but then I fell off on making videos because I really understood the responsibility of what broadcasting can be. And I don't take it lightly, right? Being an influencer, I don't take that lightly, influencing people's minds. And so even though I have vlogged and shared my experiences on other platforms like Instagram and Facebook down through the years, when it came to YouTube, I really just didn't do a lot of vlogging from YouTube because, like I said, I think I was just apprehensive because of the responsibility of influencing people's minds. I really took that serious, and I still do take that serious. That's why, I take my time. I try to balance my schedule. Like now, it's been a few weeks since my last upload or my last live or anything, but I've had some recent changes to the channel, and one or two things that you might notice right away is that I changed the name of the channel. Originally, the name of the channel was my legal name, and I was thinking, I said, well, nobody's going to search for my legal name. That didn't make any sense. I need to change the channel name to something more searchable. And then I came up with Expat Diaries, and I still use Expat Diaries. I actually have customized my URL. If I share it on other social platforms, you'll see where it says youtube.com/Expat Diaries. So that is still my custom URL, but I changed the name of the channel again to B.R.U.S.E Mission Travels. And that recently is because I've hired some business marketing strategists that are helping me with the foundation of B.R.U.S.E Mission. And for those who don't know, B.R.U.S.E Mission is my social enterprise that I founded in 2015 prior to my first trip to Africa. So I'm a nurse by profession, and pretty much helping people is just a part of my nature. I get it from my mom. And so in addition to nursing, through my life journey, I happened to meet people who were also into helping people, like in the humanitarian space, philanthropy and nonprofit work. And so prior to my first trip to Africa, one of my good friends, one of my best friends, Agnes and Kata Blackwood, shout out to DJ Queen Agnes. She took me to her family land in Malawi and introduced me to her family in 2015. And she's also into this, humanitarian type industry. And so um, I went there in 2015. And prior to that, I started B.R.U.S.E Mission. And B.R.U.S.E Mission, basically, I was influenced by to found B.R.U.S.E Mission um, basically from Agenda 2063, from the African Union's agenda to um, unify Africa, because Africa is a continent of 54 countries, really 54 that are actually known by the UN. But because Africa is so underdeveloped, there are countries that are not recognized by the UN, but the UN recognizes 54. So, and I'm going through this because it baffles me when I run into people who still to this day, like maybe it was about a month ago, I was mailing something off to Africa, and the young ladies at the post office, like, these girls have to be smart. They work at the post office, but they literally did not know that Africa was a continent with countries, 54 countries within it. And so it still baffles me from time to time how much we as Africans in the diaspora are disconnected from Africa. Like, it's 2021 and people still don't know that Africa is a continent. That like surprises me at times. But I have to realize where my people are, and be honest with myself about that situation and not get frustrated. So my point is that I've been talking with business strategists and marketing strategists, and they've been helping me with the foundation of B.R.U.S.E Mission. And so that's why you see the changes that I'm making in the channel. I've recently finished certification for travel agent. And so now I have the ability to work with travel vendors that will help me to be able to help my clients in their travels to Africa. I'll also be offering relocation services, helping people relocate. And I'm also going to be doing expatriation consultations from Instagram. And so the relocation services will consist of helping people get temporary housing, and helping them get settled as far as residency, if that's what they desire. And right now I'm making real estate connections in Ghana and Tanzania, because those are the two countries right now that I've been there before. I have friends and connections there. And so I know how hard it is for us as diasporans, especially those that are born here, and how hard it is when you don't have family over in an African continent, how hard it is to get residency. And I don't mean just the political, legal logistics of getting residency, with a residency permit. I mean, just even finding a place to stay can be difficult because you don't know the language, right? And you could very well get ripped off trying to find a place to stay. And I don't mean that in any, that's not negative. It's not, it's just the truth, right? I'm not trying to be negative. And that's not an issue, like an issue that is totally specific to Africa. That is any developing nation that you go to, there are going to be poor people that see foreigners and try and up prices. That's just that's just the way of the world. And a lot of us get offended and we don't understand that because, first of all, we're not even used to traveling outside of our mother country. And, again, we as Black people that were born here in America, is a totally different experience going to Africa. So there's a lot that we don't understand and we still trying to figure out. And so you know, I figure Ghana and Tanzania are really two. Now, there are other countries, and in the future, I will focus on those countries. But right now, I'm focused on getting those contacts in those two countries so that I can help people exit and expatriate with ease, right? And so, as far as the legal stuff, I'm having these consultations. If you need that one-on-one help, the consultations are there. So, we can get on the phone and I can actually walk you through things that you need a more personalized experience for. So that is basically the recent changes that I've made to the channel. So I'm going to start talking more about how I can help people as far as planning a luxury trip, because I'm not one of those people that are going to tell you just go and move to Africa with a few $100s, right? Or a few $1,000s and you'll be okay. Like I see vloggers saying things like that. And I just don't subscribe to that perspective because I've been there. I've done that, right? And I've even coined a phrase that I call the runaway slave approach. And to me, the runaway slave approach to expatriation is when you just feel this urgent feeling like, I just got to get out of here. I cannot take the stress in this country any longer. I just got to go. And then you pick up and you move without a real strategic plan. And then you get over in this African country and there's so many challenges and culture shocks, and you wind up mismanaging your money, and then you have to come back to the US. I've done it. I've been there. So this channel is all about sharing my experiences. So when you are looking at this channel, you get a chance to avoid a learning curve because I am totally open with the mistakes that I've made. It's hard to shame me in any aspect in my life because I believe that good, bad, or indifferent, it all works towards my good. So if I've wronged somebody, I don't have a problem with apologizing and making things better, So it's hard to shame me. I'm very open, right? So definitely from this channel, you'll be able to learn from my mistakes because I'm very transparent when it comes to things of that nature. And so, yeah, that's pretty much what I've been working on lately, is just trying to bring together the infrastructure of B.R.U.S.E mission. And a lot of people don't understand the difference between a nonprofit, humanitarian philanthropy, social enterprise. Like those are kind of words that you hear. And unless you're in the industry, you don't really know that there is a difference. A lot of people like to use them interchangeably, but B.R.U.S.E mission is a social enterprise, which is different from a nonprofit organization, right? So a nonprofit organization, typically people donate to a certain cause and they can have their charitable donations. They can write their charitable donations off and get a tax relief for that. But with a social enterprises create products and services, and the profit that they make from those products and services goes to the cause. And so B.R.U.S.E mission is a social enterprise, not a nonprofit, even though I work with 501c3s, nonprofit organizations with my social enterprise. B.R.U.S.E mission is not registered as a nonprofit organization. We are a social enterprise. We aim to make a profit, but the profit will go to the cause. And I'll talk about the cause that I've been working on here recently. So let me go through. There's like 5 things I want to talk about, and I've pretty much already talked about the recent changes with the channel. So if you've noticed that my YouTube banner, I changed that. You notice that I've changed the name of the channel so that it can be more search relatable, right? Because this is a travel channel, right? I want to talk about my upcoming trip to Malawi, Africa in December. And I also want to talk about this mass exodus of, or should I say, mass repatriation, basically, of Black expatriates from Tanzania. And I want to talk a little bit about traveling during a pandemic. And I also want to talk about Agenda 2063, the African Union's Agenda 2063. So, and I pretty much already talked about, working on my infrastructure of B.R.U.S.E mission. And that's why you see a lot of the changes and stuff. It's going to be the same message, right? My message has not changed since the very beginning, even since my first video. It has always been an African-centered travel vlog, right? So the message isn't changing. It's just that I'm making some changes to the infrastructure so that I can create products and services that I can market to people, like I said, so that I can start making a profit, and that profit go into my humanitarian efforts on the continent. And so I've pretty much kind of given you a backstory about B.R.U.S.E mission. Like I said, I founded it in 2015 prior to my first trip to Africa. And I've been working with the Timalechi Nursery School in Mbongweni, Malawi. I have a long-standing relationship with the founders of that school. Pretty much they've adopted me as family. They are like my second family. And so I travel there quite often. And so in December, I'll be traveling again to Malawi, Africa, because I currently have a humanitarian project going on over there. And I've done a video about it, a short video. It's actually called B.R.U.S.E Mission Presents. If you get a chance to watch that on the channel, it's called B.R.U.S.E Mission Presents. And it kind of talks about the new project that I've got going on in Malawi, Africa. And so I want to add that B.R.U.S.E Mission Travel, this channel, is going to be like a full service travel agency. So yes, I'll be doing domestic travels here in America, right? So you can still, I have the number posted. It's 817-832-6524. You can still call that number if you're traveling here domestically within America. And you want to save some money. I have access to several different very known travel vendors. And I've already been in this space of, because I don't pay a lot of money to travel to Africa. I don't. Over the years, I've already learned certain travel tips on how to save money. So I can only expect that being a travel agency, I'm going to be a beast out in these travel streets. So saving people money, luxury trips within your budget is definitely something. Now I have more resources to really help my clients. So this channel, B.R.U.S.E Mission Travels, is going to be designated for my travels to Africa and how I'm helping clients to relocate and take trips to Africa. But definitely from like my Facebook, I'll be advertising more of the local travel stuff. And for years, people did not understand what I was doing. Like those who have been following me on social media for a while, pretty much, I think they quite have an understanding that I've always been Africa focused. As long as I've been doing content on social media. But I think a lot of people have kind of misunderstood what I've been doing, but I'm used to being misunderstood. I've really been misunderstood pretty much my entire life, I feel. But the point is, a lot of people I think we're kind of like, oh, she just showing off, her travels to Africa. She just showing off that she can go to Africa. Why is she over in Africa helping Africans like she's rich? I've had all different kinds of vibes thrown at me, and it's like people don't understand, and sometimes I don't even feel like explaining to make people understand. But you don't have to be rich to help other people, right? You don't. You don't have to be rich to help other people. Matter of fact, let me define humanitarian. Let me Google it right quick, right? So Google says that humanitarian means someone who is concerned with or seeking to promote human welfare. You don't have to be rich to do that. Like I said, I'm a nurse by profession, so helping people has just been something that's been always in my blood. I've been nursing in the nursing field since 1999. Before that, I grew up in a house where I had an elderly grandmother and I was taking care of her. So being a caregiver is just something I've always done. And the universe allowed me to be able to meet people, right? Because they say whatever level you vibrating on, you tend to attract other people vibrating on that same frequency. And so the universe allowed me to be able to meet other people who had the same mindset. But you don't have to be rich to try and help other people. It's something that fulfills me that I've actually been doing as a hobby for many, many, many years without a camera, without vlogging, right? So there's no need for people to feel jealous about my travels to Africa, because that's not what this is about. This is about my life's work of humanitarianism. And now I'm at a point where I'm trying to turn it into a business, right? But yeah, that's me. No need to be jealous. So let me talk about the upcoming trip to Malawi, Africa. Like I said, I have a long-standing relationship with the Timalechi Nursery School, which is in Mbongweni, Malawi. Mbongweni, again, is the town. Malawi is the country within the African continent. And Timalechi Nursery School is actually in Kabira Village, right? So the director of this school is like an auntie to me. I actually call her Aunt Ina. She's like a sister. And so she called me one day. I work remotely as the school nurse. So they call me when they have health issues going on and stuff. And so she called me this particular time, and we were talking about a situation with one of the girls, not a student at the school, because this is a nursery school. Timalechi is a nursery school, but it was one of the girls in Kabira Village had an incident where she was bullied and teased and chased home because she had her menstrual cycle and messed up her clothes. And it was a big ordeal. And I've heard this story before in my travels, right? So it's like a big ordeal all over Africa that young girls miss school because of their menses. And it's unfortunate. A lot of us don't quite understand living in Western civilization, what village life is like. So let me try and help you understand a little bit. So menstrual products are imported into the African continent. There are no factories and things of that nature on the African continent that I know of. I think I remember, like, a long time ago, I was looking at some information. There may be a pad made in Nigeria. Don't quote me on that. But for the most part, for the entire continent, there are no factories and stuff that are making sanitary products. So this stuff is imported into these African countries, and they can be quite expensive for people who live in the village. Village people typically make less than $1 a day, right? And so a bag of sanitary products for your monthly cycle that may cost $5 or $6 can be quite expensive. So a lot of girls wind up missing school because of their periods. And it's very unfortunate. So when we were having this conversation, we were trying to come up with ways that we could help the situation. So we thought about making cloth sanitary products. It was like easy fix, right? There's no reason why girls should be missing school. The mother is a baby's first teacher. So if the mother is uneducated, it can actually be a domino effect for the entire family. So at the Timalechi Nursery School, I think we've had 3 classes already. We've started having classes, and girls from the surrounding area of the school, and even not just young girls, but even women we've been helping too, women with uterine issues, right? So we're finding out by holding these classes that we're solving more problems than just young girls missing school from their menstrual cycles. Actually, women who are having uterine problems that need to wear sanitary products, we're helping them as well. So we've had maybe like 3 classes now, and ladies from the villages are coming, and these classes are maybe like 20 and 30 people each class, to help them make sanitary pads, cloth reusable sanitary pads. And so it's been very fulfilling for me. And in December, I plan on going to Malawi to help on the ground with this project. I myself started using, by doing my own research, I started using these cloth reusable pads myself. And I tell you, I will not go back to disposable pads. And I hope I'm talking to a grown-up audience and this isn't like grossing somebody out. Or if it is, too bad. You know what you can do. So yeah, I started wearing them myself maybe like 8 months ago. And I will never go back to disposable pads. And when I started doing my research, I was like, okay, how in the world are they getting away with selling us such poison? But then I have to think about it. Okay, this is America. They get away with poisoning our air, food, water. So it just fits right in. But there is a toxin called dioxin that it's in the plastic, right? So it's in the plastic pads, it's in baby diapers, adult diapers, tampon applicators, pretty much everything that has plastic that pertains to sanitary products has this toxin, dioxin, in it. And dioxin is not safe on any level. Sometimes our government, our FDA, like to okay things, and they feel like, well, if you just use a little bit of the poison, right, then it's okay. It won't kill them right away, so it's okay to use a little bit of the poison. But dioxin is actually not safe on any level, and it's very toxic to our wombs, and it pertains to a lot of the reason why women have birth defects, why we have all these inflammatory issues with our uterus. Again, it just makes me wonder, like, why in the world? Hey, Ash, welcome, honey. Yeah, so it just makes me wonder, like, how in the world are they getting away with selling us this poison? But it made me realize, like, Africa was the place where the cloth pad originated, you know? So why are we not going back to our natural ways of living, like the ways of our ancestors? There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to use these cloth pads. And then when I actually started, like I said, doing research, I realized that there's a whole cloth pad movement going on. Yeah, it's definitely healthier for our wombs. It's healthier for the environment, because what happens is, if you think about it, if you think about the magnitude of the population of women in the world currently that are within reproductive age, that are having a menses, women that are using these products um, every month, right? And the poison. And another thing that I realized is that these pads don't break down. They're not biodegradable. Like literally, it takes about 500 years for one pad to decompose. So can you imagine all the women in the world of reproductive age on their menses using these pads? It's poisoning the earth. It's a direct link to global warming. It's a really big issue. And so if we could really just start a whole natural movement, we would definitely be saving money. We'd be helping the earth, and we'd be helping our own wombs. So that's pretty much what I've been working on in this new project. And I'll be going to Malawi to touch down in a grassroots kind of way and finish helping with this project in December. Excuse me. So that's what's up and coming as far as my trip to Malawi. Let me talk about this mass, because we're already over 30 minutes in and I don't want to go too long. But there is if you're not aware of it, like a mass repatriation of Black, I want to say expats, because they're not just from America, they're Blacks from Europe as well. So if you've been following this whole movement of Africans in the diaspora reconnecting to Africa, then you pretty much already know. But for people who don't know, I want to kind of reiterate or kind of go through the steps of what happened. So in 2019, the country of Ghana had a campaign called the Year of Return that basically was asking for Africans in the diaspora, especially those of us in America, to come to Ghana and invest. And it's in correlation with the Agenda 2063 of the African Union, right? And so they had this really big campaign, and I have a video where I talked about it. It's called 5 Reasons Why I Love Ghana. I talked about it briefly in that particular video. It was a really big campaign where a lot of celebrities, I could not believe how many celebrities, and they've got videos where they vlogged about their experience in Ghana on YouTube. So it shouldn't be, hard to find information, but it was a really big ordeal for the year of 2019. And Ghana was basically commemorating the 400 years since the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade. And so after that year, Ghana literally made $1.9 billion that year for the Year of Return. 1.9 billion for 1 year. They were having festival after festival after festival the entire year. And by the end of the year, they made $1.9 billion just from the diaspora coming back and visiting that particular year, enjoying the festivals. And so after that big campaign, a lot of people started flooding into Ghana from the diaspora to actually settle. They were coming from America, North and South of America. They were coming from different countries in Europe. Um, and COVID happened. COVID happened, and there were some people who were stuck over there because they shut the country down. They couldn't leave. It was kind of a little disaster when COVID hit. It totally stopped the movement of people who were going to Ghana. So after that first wave here in America of shutting us down, and I think about the times when people used to say, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. You think that the government's gonna shut us all and lock us all in our houses. They can't do that." Yeah, okay. They proved to us, yes, they can. So after that first wave and the travel restrictions begin to kind of uplift a little bit, a lot of people decided that they were going to go to Tanzania and maybe just wait until Ghana opened its borders. So a lot of people began to flood into Tanzania, waiting for Ghana to open up. And not just that, like the president of Tanzania during that time, rest in peace, Magufuli, was very anti-pandemic. Let me just put it that way. And he was very vocal about being anti-pandemic, right? Like he was a very smart man. He had his own scientists that checked things out in his own way. And he was just like, I'm not with it. And I honestly believe that is the reason why he is dead right now, because he went against the American government, the CDC, the Centers of Disease Control, the World Health Organizations, Big Pharma, all those gangsters. He went against those people, and now he's mysteriously dead. And so after he passed away, a lot of those people moved out of Tanzania. And they are now still exiting because it hasn't been that long ago since he passed away. There's a big movement of people exiting right now, going back to their mother countries. That's what I mean by this mass repatriation. A lot of times we use the terms expatriate and repatriate interchangeably, but really repatriates are, when you're talking about going to Africa, repatriates are people who were born on the continent. That's their mother country. And so they're being sent back to their mother country. In relation to us that are born here in America, an expatriate is those of us that are leaving our mother country. So there are differences, but we tend to use them as a community interchangeably, but there are definitely differences. So when I said this mass repatriation, I was talking about Black foreigners that were there trying to settle in Tanzania have been going back to their mother country, whether it was in Europe or in America. And a lot of them I've noticed have different reasons. But if I had to sum it all up, right, all of the different reasons would be exactly what I talk about from this channel, the runaway slave approach. It is that urgency. You feel like, oh my God, I can't take the stress in this country anymore. I gotta go. And you jump up and leave without a strategic plan. And what you find out, especially if you've never moved outside of if you've never lived outside of America before, you're going from a first world country to a third world country. And there's a lot of difference in that. Like Africa totally functions different than America. There's a bunch of challenges and culture shocks that you'll experience with that. And so I try to encourage people to take a trip to whatever African country you feel pulled to. Take several trips, right? Don't feel like, even though there is an urgency, do not make emotional decisions that will put you in a bad spot. Because when you start on this journey of telling anybody that you're thinking about going to Africa, trust me, you will you'll get nothing but opposition, especially from your family and friends, right? They're gonna wonder if you done lost your mind. You may even get some, and I think it's about your family and friends feeling abandoned, to be honest, just from the different stories and different people I've been talking to over the years that have tried to settle. I think it's about a feeling of abandonment that our families feel. It's like you're going so far away, and they're irritated by that, right? Because misery loves company, and it can be miserable here in America for us. It can, as Black people. And so it's like, how dare you try to move away from the plantation? And so they feel abandoned, and so they begin to attack you and things of that nature. So you going to, if you start on this journey, you're going to be ostracized. You might as well get used to that. But so I think that the reason why there's this mass repatriation of Black expats from Tanzania is because they were not prepared, right? Like, I've literally done on the ground field research over the years of this expatriation thing. And what I've noticed is that it's more easy for a woman who lives in an African country that gets married to a local African man, right? It's easier for them to stay because that's sort of a foundation, right? It's easier for retirees because they have an income that they can depend on, especially if they're collecting Social Security or a pension or something like that. They have an income, but there's so much involved in moving to an African country. Like, literally, the population of Africa are young and unemployed. So it's not typical or ideal to move to Africa and get a job. It's not, because the people who live there can't even find a job, right? So you literally have to go over there with a mindset of independence, being your own boss, being an entrepreneur, creating ways to make money. Because if you don't, you'll eat your savings up in no time. And I see vloggers telling people, oh, you can just move to Africa with a few $1,000s. And no. When you're moving from a first world country like America, moving to a third world country within the continent of Africa, right? It's not like you moving within America to a different city. It's not the same. Like, literally, the entire continent functions different from here in America. And so you go over there with westernized thinking, and you want these westernized luxuries when this is a continent where people live close to the earth. You have people, the majority of people in Africa still cook outside on an open fire. The majority population of Africa don't have a stove. They still cook outside. They wash clothes on their hands outside. These are people who typically live close to the earth. This is a developing continent. So you go over there with a few $1,000s and want to live this lavish, luxury, westernized lifestyle, you will mismanage your money and be broke in a minute. Trust me, I've been there. I've done that. That is the runaway slave approach I'm talking about. It costs money to live luxury in Africa. People don't understand the things that we take for granted here in America, like running water. It costs money in Africa to have running water. Electricity. It costs money. right? Those are luxuries. Air conditioning, those are luxuries. Literally, a stove to cook your food on, those are luxuries. And they cost money. And so, if you feel like, oh, I don't have enough money to be able to visit and move to Africa, well, then you can't afford to move to Africa, baby. Trust me, I've been there, I've done that. I want to encourage people to always not just take one trip, take several trips, because it's going to take you to stay a while and be immersed in the culture. If you can't afford time off your job to actually do the field research, you open yourself up to a bunch of challenges that you could have avoided just by taking your time and doing things strategically. You don't know the language. It's going to take time for you to go and build a foundation. It may take several trips for you to build good relationships with people on the continent, make friends. Like, you're going to need local people to be your mouthpiece. Until you learn the language, you're going to need local people to be your mouthpiece. It's just the way it is. So, and each individual person is different. Like me as a nurse, when my first trip to Ghana, I was thinking about opening up a group home that serviced the elderly population. But then I got to spend time where I lived in Ghana for a little while, and I realized that that's just not going to work. Like me specifically, I'm burned out on healthcare. I've been doing nursing since 1999. And so all the political stuff revolving healthcare here in America is too much. So to go to a developing nation where their healthcare system infrastructure is not quite up to par, it was too much for me to deal with. I was like, I'm over healthcare here, especially in the middle of this pandemic. I'm over it. So to go to a developing nation, like for me, that's not gonna work. I'm gonna have to figure something else out to make money, because I don't want to be in healthcare in Africa. I don't. It's just too complicated. And I don't want to take the time to go through the drama of that learning curve. It's just, so I decided, look, you're going to have to come up with another way. And so what I'm saying is, in relation to this mass repatriation of Black expats within Tanzania, you have to not only do your history on these African countries, you have to know the history of these African countries before you move into them. You need to know, are there any civil unrests in these countries? Is this a peaceful country, right? You need to have some idea of the political vibe in these countries, because things can pop off in Africa and it'll be something like you've never seen before, right? And you'll be caught in a situation. So it's important to not only know the history of these countries before you move there, but you need to take several trips, because each individual person is different. So you need to be able to put your boots on the ground to figure out, how am I going to make money in this space? Because again, the average population in Africa is young and unemployed. So going there and finding a job is really not an option for the average person. So you got to figure out, how am I going to make money on this continent and be able to still live? You want to be able to have those Western luxuries that you used to, and it's very possible to have it, but you got to take several trips to be able to figure that out. Trust me, it's going to take you several trips. Now, if you got enough money where you can go and stay a couple years to figure that out, great. But the average person, working class American, doesn't have that type of time. So you wind up having to take several trips. So I think that, in my opinion, that mass repatriation that we're seeing is because these people were not only not financially prepared, they weren't emotionally prepared, spiritually prepared. It's just, there's a lot of challenges in leaving the country. It's more than just getting on a plane and waving bye to America. It's a whole legal process, for one. And then again, everything is just so different from what we're used to here in America. It's going to take time. So that's pretty much what I have to say about the mass repatriation. It's because we aren't taking the time to make strategic plans to move outside of the country. It can be a great experience. Don't get me wrong. To me, Africa is like heaven on earth. You know, like I literally get the best sleep in all my life when I go to Africa, because I don't have to wake up to any worries and responsibilities. I can just be on holiday when I go, right? So my blood pressure is lower. I'm eating better organic foods. The air is clean. Like it's totally a totally wonderful vibe, but you can complicate things by not making a strategic move, right? So, like I said, from this channel, I'm going to share my experiences so that you can avoid that learning curve, because I am totally open and transparent with the mistakes that I've made over the years, you know, and I'll continue to be transparent and try and help people avoid those mistakes. So let's move to the next thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about traveling during a pandemic. In the beginning, Africa's numbers were low as far as this COVID thing. If you were kind of following this whole Back to Africa movement during this pandemic. Actually, African countries were some of the last countries to actually shut down. There were foreigners moving back and forth, spreading COVID through these African countries. And so they finally shut things down, and now they have testing in place. You have to have a specific PCR test for most of these African countries when you're traveling in. And then you have to be strategic about how you do it, because the requirement is that I think for most countries, you have to get tested for COVID 72 hours before you depart your mother country. And so you have to actually plan to be tested 72 hours and get your results back within that 72 hours before you fly. And then I know, at least for Ghana, they want you to test again once you get to that country. So, and those tests aren't cheap. They like $100 and something or so, last time I looked. So like for Ghana, if you have to test before you leave, and then once you get there again, you know, that's a hassle. That's a hassle. And if you test negative, you have to be quarantined by whatever government affiliated facility that they have for you. It's typically like a hotel somewhere, designated by the government. They'll tell you that you need to stay in this hotel until you test positive. And it's typically a 14-day run. And each country is different. Like the country of Mauritius, it's a popular vacation destination for diasporans, not Black diasporans, rich white diasporans. But anyway, the country Mauritius, they'll test you when you get into the country. And if you test negative, then you have to stay 14 days in this designated hotel, right? So each country is different. Now, when Magufuli was alive in Tanzania, they didn't require a COVID test to get into the country, but the airlines required testing for you to fly. So you definitely have to um, double check as far as these COVID tests. I don't even want to go into the false positives, but it is what it is. Like there's a lot of false positives, a lot of false negatives with these tests. They have been faulty and tell people that who may have a common cold that they got COVID, and it's not true. But nonetheless, you still have to pay that money. You know, if you travel and you come up positive, you still have to pay that money. That money to be quarantined in that designated hotel comes out of your pocket. So when you're traveling, you have to be ready for the mindset that, oh, if I test positive, I've also got to have money just in case I get stuck and have to go into a hotel for 14 days, because you have to pay that out of pocket, right? Um, And so now I realize that at first, African countries were not having a high number of COVID patients or COVID people being diagnosed with COVID. And I was pertaining it to the hot tropical weather. Like it's hard for viruses to grow in hot weather. And so that's really what I was contributing it to. But I'm going to sound like a conspiracy theorist when I say this, but I feel like they cooked up a whole variant, because now that what's his name, Fauci's emails are public now, it's come out that the pandemic was man-made. And so honestly, I've been feeling like this before the emails even came out public, that they were literally cooking up variants in a lab specifically for Black people to infect us with, right? So now you've got a lot of these African countries where the numbers are going up. So I want to tell all my brothers and sisters that are either traveling to the African country, to the African continent, you'll check for each country. You can check travel restrictions with the US government. And more than likely, you'll see something that says, well, don't travel to this particular country because their COVID numbers are high. And if you travel anyway, then wear your mask and socially distance and make sure you're vaccinated and things of that nature. But I'm not here to tell you to get vaccinated or not to get vaccinated. That is an individual decision that I respect, unlike our government. I respect people's choices to choose whether they want to be vaccinated or not. But I will say, definitely, vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc is the cocktail preferred by doctors, right? To help boost your immune system and keep you healthy. I have not been vaccinated myself. I didn't do vaccines before COVID, right? I didn't take flu shots and pneumonia shots and all of that, like, because I'm in the medical field and I know what vaccines are made of. And I know, to me, there's way more poisons in vaccines, and they do more harm than good, in my opinion. That's my personal opinion as somebody working in the healthcare field, right? So I've never done vaccines. I've always depended on my God-given immune system to do what God created it to do. And I trust my immune system more than I trust the US government. I'm just going to be honest, right? So I've even taken care of COVID patients during this time of this pandemic. And I have been on that cocktail. Vitamin C is going to help boost your immune system. Vitamin D, because we here in America don't get enough sun. These chemtrails and stuff that you see is our government blocking the sun. Now, if you do your research, they'll say it's in relation to global warming and they blocking the sun because of global warming. Woo, 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 woo. Well, that's neither here or there. The point is, we don't get enough sun, and most of us here in America are vitamin D deficient. So the vitamin C is definitely a necessary supplement on a daily basis, because we don't get enough from the sun in our diet, whatever. And so vitamin D is going to help those other vitamins absorb. And the zinc is going to help fight off viral infections. That is literally the cocktail. I have been telling people that this since this COVID thing started. And I went to Tanzania in December last year, and I got all into the hype of, oh, there's no COVID in Tanzania. And after I got sick, I thought about it. Okay, you're a nurse. Think logically. Coronavirus is just a blanket term, right? There's different kinds of coronaviruses, different strands of coronaviruses. The common cold is a coronavirus. SARS, MERS, H1N1, all those are coronaviruses. And so I had to think about it. Okay, I stopped taking my vitamins and stuff, my cocktail, my vitamin C, D. Well, the D, so much sun in Africa. I didn't really think I needed that. But nonetheless, I stopped taking it in all the hype of there's no COVID in Tanzania. And while we were there, we had a lady who was cooking traditional Tanzanian meals for us, me and my husband, when we went to Tanzania. And she came to work one day and she was coughing all over the food while she was cooking. And I thought about it after the fact. I was like, oh, God, I'm probably going to be sick because my husband, he hardly ever catches anything. But I stopped taking my vitamins and stuff. And sure enough, I had this full blown bad flu-like cold, but I knew exactly what to do, right? So I had my husband go to the pharmacy and get me some stuff. And one of the things that I took in addition to picking back up my regimen for my vitamins was medicine for malaria. So the basic mechanism of action for that medication that they sell at the pharmacies for malaria is like it's like a broad spectrum antibiotic, like Cipro or something that's in there. And so I knew that I would get some antibiotics along with my vitamins, and within 24 hours, I sweated that out and I was good. I was ready to go to Zanzibar, right? So I just want to say that traveling in a pandemic, there are things now that we need to think about that we didn't have to think about before with traveling. And so keeping your immune system up is definitely one, whether you want to be vaccinated or not. And just knowing that you have to be tested, you need to do your research in these African countries of how many times do you have to be tested during your travels? Do you have to be tested before you leave, when you get there, on the way back? That adds up, like Ghana, I think you have to test prior to getting there, once you get there, and when you leave. That's about $300-$400 right there. So those are things that you need to consider when you're traveling during this pandemic. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about is Agenda 2063. Now, the African Union in 2003 came up with this Agenda 2063. And basically, Agenda 2063 is a master plan, a blueprint for the future of Africa. All the financial gurus will tell you that Africa is the future. Again, there's a big population of people there that are just consumers, right? So business-minded people who want to build businesses, there's an open space. It is the next big economic boom, right? And so the African Union in 2003 came up with this agenda to basically for all the countries in Africa to come together and unify on the basis of bringing Africa to the world stage as the superpower it used to be. Literally, like Africa used to be a superpower. Like Africa was the place where people went to gain knowledge at one time in history, if you know the history of Africa as a whole. So the Agenda 2063 is all about pulling the resources of all these countries, because these countries are divided by colonial borders, right? The transatlantic slave trade was a traumatic event for the African continent. And a lot of the politics and stuff surrounding that are still in place today. And so it keeps Africans from being able to do business with each other across these colonial borders. And so the Agenda 2063 is all about bringing these countries together to be able to put Africa on the world stage as the superpower it used to be. And they've even constituted, the African Union has even constituted Africans in the diaspora as what they call the sixth region, right? So they've kind of carved Africa up into different regions, north, south, east, west, right? And they've added diasporans in the Africans in the diaspora, as the sixth region to this agenda, because they want us to expatriate back to the continent to invest in Africa and build the Africa that we want. So to me, when I found out about that, that's what helped me come up with B.R.U.S.E mission. It was like a no-brainer to me. It was like all I could think about was, okay, isn't that like biblical prophecy? That Africans in the diaspora go back to Africa, like Genesis, what is it? Genesis, and I still read my African study Bible, right? Because I know that this is an African story. What we call the King James Version of the Bible, this is an African story, right? And even though I may not consider myself a practitioner of the Christian faith in this current day and time, because of my own personal spiritual journey, I still read this book because there's some things in this book to me that are good knowledge, right? And so when I heard about the Agenda 2063, I was like, isn't that biblical prophecy for Africans in the diaspora to go back to the land of their ancestors? Yeah, it is. Genesis, what is it? 15, verse 13, that talks about when God told Abraham that your people for sure will be in bondage in a strange land for 400 years. And then they will return back to the land of their ancestors. Yeah, that's, it was like, oh, okay. This just totally makes sense, right? Africa itself is opening up for diasporans to come back home and invest, but it's really for you to understand that this is an African story. I don't get it myself. I don't get it how Black people, and I'm talking about us because I've been there, right? How we separate ourselves mentally, spiritually from how this is an African story, right? The Garden of Eden, that is in Africa, right? Even the book of Revelations, I think it's First Revelations. I got to hear my notes. Chapter 14 and 15, that talks about how Jesus himself is a melanated man with skin the color of bronze and woolly hair. Who has woolly hair? We are the only people with woolly hair. But when you start talking about that, Black people, especially, I can't even say here in America, we're like that everywhere on the planet because we've been conditioned with slave sermons from this book, right? We've been conditioned with slave sermons. The first thing people will say is, oh, I don't care about color. I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. Well, it does matter to somebody because they strategically went around the world and changed the color of this character Jesus in this book that you say is the infinite word of God? If this is the infinite word of God, and your God is telling you that you are going to be in bondage in a foreign land for 400 years, and then I am going to make a way for your people to come out of that bondage with great riches, why isn't anybody paying attention to that? If it obviously made a difference to the creator or the people who wrote these books to even mention, to describe what Jesus looked like, it obviously made a difference. But because we are conditioned to love the dominant society and our oppressor more than we love ourselves, we will literally, spiritually, and mentally disconnect ourselves from this African story. But the point of this African story is that, yeah, you're going to go through something. You're going to be in bondage for 400 years in another land. But I'm going to bring you out with riches. That's what the story say. So when the African Union came up with this Agenda 2063, I was like, okay, this is biblical prophecy. This is a no-brainer to me. Why would I continue to try and build wealth in a place where there's no room at the table for me, where I'm constantly being, I don't even know the words I'm looking for right now, but y'all know what I'm saying. Like here in America, there are certain industries that we're allowed in, and then there's a cap on how much money we can make in those industries. Africa is open for investment. So going to Africa can be a lot of things to a lot of different people. But I think we as Blacks in the diaspora need to at least experience Africa one time, even if you have no idea or no means of moving there. You need to at least travel there to see the land of your ancestors, right? But to me, I don't understand how we can be diehard Christians, but you don't even consider that this is an African story telling you to come out of Babylon. I don't understand that. How can you turn that off and just disconnect yourself from that, but yet you go around preaching that this is the infinite word of God? Well, I guess it's only the infinite word of God when you regurgitating slave sermons, right? Something that fits what you trying to preach. You use those scriptures, but then you totally negate the entire bigger African story. It just doesn't make sense to me. Then you have people who claim to be conscious and they're Garveyites, supposedly, right? They follow the philosophies of the Honorable Messiah Marcus Garvey. Like I have a video on my channel talking about, I was talking to this brother at a Rasta bar off the beach in Tanzania, and he was talking about how Marcus Garvey failed. And at the time, I'm just, I'm doing this like I'm doing a movie, but at the time I was just filming because I knew what he was saying was so controversial that it would get views. But it was after the fact that I realized Marcus Garvey did not fail, because him and I being in Africa with a mindset to expatriate is a manifestation of Marcus Garvey's philosophy. Now, I don't know if he was saying that he failed because if you know anything about the history of Marcus Garvey, he had created this ship to be able to take trips of diasporans from America to Africa. And that ship was sabotaged by I don't know what you want to call them, coons, white people's black people. It's a lot of names that people use to define people who care more about their oppressor, and they deliberately sabotage other black people who have a mindset to be independent from our oppressor, right? And so these black people sabotaged his ship. So in that situation, yeah, he failed because other black people worked against him. But we are the manifestations of his vision. But you have people who talk about the ancestor Marcus Garvey and they have no exodus plan whatsoever. I don't understand it, right? But in regards to Agenda 2063, if you Google the sixth region, you'll get information and even a website where you can register with the sixth region here in the US, of Africans that are with this movement. And this is an entire movement of moving back to Africa for investment purposes, of building the Africa that we want. Is it going to be easy? No. Nation building is not easy. But the choices are stay here and fight for crumbs under master's table, or go build real generational wealth. And I've seen with my own eyes in my own travels through the years, I've seen Africans prepare for that move and actually build generational wealth in Africa. Akon talks about it all the time, how you can go to Africa with a Fortune 500 company idea and within 5 years be set. People are doing it all the time, mainly other people groups. China is taking over Africa, right? And it's a really big problem because Africa is our birthright. Africa for Africans. But yet we have let the dominant society turn us off from Africa. But this is the place where we can build real generational wealth. Africa is the only place on the planet where you can walk the beach and find gold. Ghana is called the Gold Coast for a reason. This land was kissed by the Creator and made just for us. So we have got to stop being so emotional about this whole process to Africa and start thinking more strategic about it. We've got to stop romanticizing the idea of moving to a third world country. It's not going to be easy, but there's too many other people groups over there, white Asians, white Europeans, white Arabs, white Indians, all the whites are over there living their best life. Meanwhile, what's going to happen if we're late to the party? What's going to happen is they're going to sew up all these industries like they have here in America, and there's not going to be room at the table for us if we don't go and pioneer this thing and build. We have the invitation from the African Union. They've constituted us a part of the agenda. A lot of people I've heard over the years complain, well, no African country came and got us during slavery. We have to understand that the entire continent was bombarded. And those like Ghana who actually have made a public apology for the part that they've played in the slave trade, they didn't realize that when they sold us off that we was going to go through what we went through. They had no idea that we was going to have to deal with breeding farms where the term motherfucker comes from, right? If you don't know, let me tell you a little something. The term motherfucker comes from slavery, where they were actually making slaves, men, have sex with their mothers to breed a certain kind of African. So, yes, we have to, again, like Ghana is one of those countries that made a public apology for the part that they played. And I'm sure those chiefs and those kings at the time that that was going on that did. Now, there were some that were totally bombarded and rushed with ammunition and people were taken and snatched. But there were conditions where, in situations where we were sold. But when they sold us, you think that they knew the catastrophe that these demons had in mind? No, no, because slavery on the African continent, if you know your history, was not considered the same thing. Slavery on the African continent was like servitude. People who did something wrong and they would like make them in service of other people to, you know, like you're doing community service or something, you know, to make up for the crime that they committed. So to them, slavery had a totally different meaning. They didn't know that our men was going to be buck broken and raped in front of their entire family. They didn't know the devilment that we were going to go through when they sold us off the shores of West Africa. So we have an open invitation, and we have to stop making big issues about nothing. These are developing countries. So don't get angry if you're being overcharged in an African country. That's not something, again, that's specific to just Africa. That is developing nations all over the world where you have a big population of poor people. Foreigners coming into the country is going to get a different price. They believe in negotiating. All you have to do is say, first of all, do your research and know the normal price of things. That's the whole point of making several trips, right? Learning the language, knowing the price of things. Once you know the price of things and you know somebody overcharging you, it's called negotiating. No, I don't want to pay that. I want to pay this. And 9 times out of 10, you tell them, no, I don't want to pay that. They'll tell you, well, whatever you can afford. But come out of this whole mindset of, you're supposed to be my brother. Why are you overcharging me? Stop. That's being emotional about it. You know, they overcharging these white Asians and white Arabs too that are over there building. They don't let that bother them. They still over there taking over Africa. Again, once you familiarize yourself and immerse yourself in the culture, a lot of that shenanigans goes away. Wanting citizenship right away. That's another thing that we do. Oh, we didn't give up our citizenship. We were forced to, and y'all sold us. And why can't we have citizenship? You are a foreigner. That is us romanticizing Africa again. You are a foreigner. You came there on a passport with a visa. You are a foreigner. So there is a process to citizenship that you have to take. Yes, nobody can change the history of the transatlantic slave trade. It is what it is. But at least Africa is taking steps to welcome us back home. Nation building is not easy. But again, our only choices are stay here and fight for crumbs under massa's table, or be independent, separate, and build our own. That's the choices on the table. And so from this channel, I will continue to help people avoid a learning curve by sharing the mistakes that I've already been through, right? Taking you along my personal journey of expatriation. And so I've already been on this live for more than an hour, so I'm going to bring it to a close. I think I've pretty much beat like a dead horse to anything else I had to talk about today. Um, so again, just look forward to me talking more about traveling, because again, I will be helping clients save money, whether it's a vacation, you just want to go check out the African continent. There's the most beautiful, beautiful natural sceneries known to this planet are in Africa. If you just want a vacation, I can help you with a luxury vacation within your budget. If you want a staycation where you want to do boots on the ground field research and you want to stay a little while, a sabbatical, where you want to take off of work, you save up enough money, you want to take off work or you take off school for a year and just immerse yourself in the culture and see what it takes to actually expatriate to that country that's calling you, right? We have to be strategic about our exodus. Or you just want to, or you've been there already and you just want to expatriate, whatever the case may be, I am here to help. 817-832-6524. Call me with any of your travel needs. If I don't answer the phone, let me know that you need help with your travels to Africa, and I will call you back as soon as possible. But that's pretty much where this channel is going. Like I said, it's the same message. I'm just working on the foundation of my business structure so that I can get to a point where I'm making a profit, so that profit can pour into my humanitarian efforts on the continent, which is social enterprise. And social enterprise is different from nonprofit work, right? I'm making a profit with the intentions of putting that money into my humanitarian projects on the continent. So with that being said, I will close this video with Black love is Black power. And when I say that, what I'm saying is that our love, our honor, and our respect for one another is where our power lies. Because anywhere, anytime, any place where you've been able to deny racism is an issue, I think we're getting to a point where we can no longer deny that, right? People are being bombarded with racism. And if you're Black and don't know that racism is one of our biggest issues, a lot of people like to say, well, you can't blame white people for everything. Well, racism is pretty institutionalized, right? Healthcare, spiritual system, educational system, everything you can think of has been affected by racism. So how is that not our biggest issue? I think there's a big difference in acknowledging the injustices of African people. People, when you talk about the injustices of African people, we like to equate that as you blaming white people. Well, I think this Agenda 2063, this invitation to invest in Africa and build the Africa that we want, is definitely a path that is not only set in biblical prophecy, but it's something that we need to try. I definitely think it's something that we need to try. And is that mission for everybody? No. Like Marcus Garvey said, no, it's not for everybody. But it definitely is calling quite a few people. And if we can organize our mindsets and our resources, we definitely can come together and build a space where we're flourishing. Africa, it's time for Africa to be on the world stage and compete with other world powers. It is time, because we have literally helped our oppressor steal from Africa. The devices that people are looking at me on right now, the raw materials for those devices come out of Africa. Wars, bloody wars go on in the Congo for the mineral coltan that makes our laptops and our cell phone devices. We have literally helped our oppressors rape Africa. And you don't think that the creator is dissatisfied with that? If you don't think the creator is dissatisfied with that, it's because your creator looks like your oppressor, and they're one and the same. Your God and your oppressor are one and the same. Because if you don't see a problem with the injustices, if you're an African person of African descent and you have no feelings about the injustices of African people, it is because your God doesn't like African people. And I'm going to leave it at that. Black love is Black power.